Blast me hearties and welcome once again to Full Stream Ahead, your internet sailing through the blue of the universe as we explore what we have. I'm your host, Charlie the Professor Esser, and with me, as always, is my skinny rich friend. My skinny witch friend? My skinny witch friend or my skinny rich friend?
Hey, you never know. You never know. That's all.
Watch out for that purple magic. Hey, kids. This is it. This is the final episode of the series finale. WandaVision, Season 1, Episode 9, the series finale. Wanda battles Agatha, and the Vision fights his sword counterpart as Hayward launches an attack on Westview. Matt Shackman is our director. Jack Schaefer gets our Created by credit among those writers, along with Stan Lee, and of course, wrong button. And of course, Jack Kirby on our Marvel Created by credits, along with Roy Thomas and John Buscema, who did those Vision Created by credits. Jack Schaefer, of course, along with being the Created by and the showrunner, gets our head writer credit. She also wrote this episode. Peter Cameron and Bobek S. Farjani get our executive story editor credits, along with Mackenzie Dorr. And then we got three staff writers who worked on this: Megan McDonald, Laura Donnie, and good old Cameron Squires. All right. Yeah, so this is neat because, of course, this is our post Agatha All Along and post Previously On episodes where we got all of the history. And, here's what I find most fascinating. Obviously, there is a lot of talk on the internet about, they didn't give us this and that and the other. But what I actually found most interesting that was all of the really, big fan theories that, of course, I immediately dismissed as being too obvious are all the ones that came true. So, yes, the book is the Darkhold. Yes, there is another Vision. Yes, there's going to be the fight. Yes, it was Agatha all along, and she actually was evil.
And that Wanda wasn't doing it to save a group of people. It really was her knowing she was doing something wrong, just because her grief made her blind to her sense of moral direction.
Yeah, exactly. And that is really what the whole moral of the story is that it was actually Wanda all along. Although, with the revelation of the Darkhold, there is a secondary aspect of this, which is it may have been the Darkhold all along.
Right, because considering the final post-credit scene, I mean, there's two hypothetical expressions of the entity of Wanda.
Well,
and one may not necessarily be may not necessarily be privy to all the things the other version is doing.
Yeah, I don't want to jump directly to the post-credit scenes, but man, they are juicy. There's a lot going on, and there is, in fact, stuff that's setting up other things that really should be driving people to the fan zone. And this is something I've said in other podcasts, is that this, I think, is why this series in particular was a great series to step back into the MCU with. And also why I think the MCU does have this cultural dominating spot, in the same way that The Mandalorian did. That why Disney Plus is just owning everybody right now. It's because I realize Disney understands it's not about watching their shows. I mean, they definitely want you to watch their shows. Everyone likes you to watch their shows. But what really drives the shows is the community of the shows. Is the idea that we're all going to get together. We're all going to talk about these shows. We're all going to build out these shows and make these shows fun to watch and have this community watching these shows together.
You can't come
because
up with theories if you binge watch the whole thing. And we can't talk to each other about theories and have expectations for whether or not they will pan out. And that whole cultural scene is different
yeah,
than what Netflix does, for sure.
yeah, and even beyond that, it is just that idea about building that community. I think that is where these products, Star Wars, Marvel, anything else you want to put out there, these product lines have these communities. Then you bring other people into your community because you are communicating. It becomes this great way to have a social circle, especially in our current, COVID bubbles. People are looking for ways to connect with people. This is a great way for everyone to connect. So honestly, Disney is owning it because I think Disney looked ahead and said, what is the value of making shows? And this is what I always say is, what do we do? And what Disney does is they tell stories. And why are stories important? Because people tell their kids stories and people tell their friends stories. And this storytelling magic is what makes the business run. So I'm really proud of that. I'm really excited about that. I'm glad that I've realized. I'm always happy when I realize what they're trying to sell me. And I get that, they're trying to sell me that community, that Disney Plus premium community that we can all pay $11.99 a month for and all enjoy. And because we're all enjoying it, they get their regular money and we all get to enjoy the show and talk about it and build a community that feeds it. But getting back to this actual episode, one thing I found really interesting in this is that, so we do get the reveal that essentially Agatha or Agnes, Agatha, we'll call her Agatha, her whole thing is she, as she says, steals powers from the undeserving, or how she defines
anybody in her eyes, clearly, right? That's a matter of opinion.
Anyone who has enough power for her to steal. Here's the thing. I think that she has no interest in bothering you if you just want to do your magic. And I get the feeling, so unlike Mordu, whose last time we saw him was, I need to stop people from using magic because there are too many people who can use magic.
I think she's just interested in consolidating power.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think she cares if you use it or not. She's not going to let you use it if it's an interesting power and she wants it. Give me that. That's who she is.
But here I think is what is, and this is what I will say is, first off, the most brilliant thing they did in this series, the biggest subversion of expectations is they didn't have, you want power? Have all the power! Blah, blah, blah. They didn't do that trope. And here's the thing. They could have very easily done that because by the end we see, oh, wow, Wanda's fighting her. Wanda is really, in many ways, having some great dominating moves in this fight.
But she's outsmarting her.
Yes. Well, that's the thing is Wanda's also running the whole hex the whole time. So she basically, this chaos magic that's flowing through her is all of chaos. And that's why really she really would not have been able to be the vessel for it. She was not primed to be.
Agatha should have been smart enough to know, am I getting all this power? Hey, the hex is still up. How can I be getting all this power? How could she be weakening if the hex is still up?
Exactly.
So clearly this is a farce.
Exactly. And that's when we get to that. When we get to that brilliant turn at the end.
Yeah.
The whole thing, and that is one of the reasons I really love this. I loved this ending. And, there are people that are mad about it. I don't know why. There are people that are bad about Coming to America as well. And I don't even understand that. It's like, I don't know what you were expecting from Coming to America. It's an Eddie Murphy comedy. He puts on some crazy suits. He does some broad characters, and then there's a little story in between. That's why you go to an Eddie Murphy movie. But here's the thing. So let's get some plot lines here. Let's talk about some great scenes. One of which is, of course, Wanda keeps on outfoxing Agatha. Because, they're doing the fight, and then, of course, but Wanda hits her with the car.
Yeah.
And that is, and then you get your little Wizard of Oz reference with just the boots left behind. Um, you know, um, you get an interesting thing here with Ralph and
Monica.
Monica, and you also get the idea and this is one of these things about, clearly Agnes is still in Ralph. Ralph isn't just on autopilot. I think he has a lot of control, but he's like an AI drone. It's like the drone can correct itself, but it's not going to instigate anything. And I think that's exactly how Monica eventually gets the domination on him, because Agatha is otherwise occupied fighting. Because when they first do a confrontation, obviously Monica defeats him. Oh, I'm sorry, Ralph defeats Pietro defeats Monica very quickly. Does her super speed thing, does the little flicky thing.
So do you think Ralph inherently isn't a speedster? It was just...
That is actually interesting, because I actually think he may be. And maybe not inherently a speedster, but maybe he has become a speedster. And the reason is because there is a deleted scene that we do not get. So we're going to say right now, release the Shankman cut. But I don't think there is a Shankman cut. But I get the feeling there's a lot of extra stuff that we never got because of COVID. That if we were in a non-COVID world, there would have been a couple extra scenes and a couple extra storylines in here. And one of them is this idea that Ralph, Monica, and the kids were going to confront Mr. Scratchy.
Oh.
Yeah, Senior Scratchy, yes. That they were
at what that is. They never panned that out.
Well, that was apparently the pan out, is Shankman on, I think it was Fat Man Beyond, went... there was a scene written where those four... It was interesting that they brought Ralph along, because it says, well, why are they bringing Ralph along, except for the fact that maybe he has... Because they said the kids knew the book was down there, but I get the feeling that maybe Ralph wasn't completely useless. Which makes me think he might have had powers.
Have some sort of strategic upper hand, making her think that he's, still on her side.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the whole Ralph and Agnes question is the big dangling thread at the end of this.
It seemed to me by the end of it that it was more just like Kaiser Soze reading names off of a bulletin board. Like she was just making up Ralph, and she knew this kid Ralph that she turned into this, so it was an easy name to remember. So as part of her improv, that was just one like little go-to thing that she had.
I mean, yeah, I do think that's entirely possible, that it wasn't, that she never really was.
I can't hear you. Hey, can you hear me? I can't hear you. I can't hear you. No.
Unstable.
Oh,
Tristan,
there
can
we
you
go.
check? Okay. Tristan, check the Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi may be getting a little hot. Is it overcharged? Okay, there we go. Yeah. If the Wi-Fi gets a little overcharged, it gets all excited. But right. So I wonder if Ralph actually either was or is a working actor, because he's got a house in New Jersey, and it does seem to be that this is Ralph's house. Now maybe it's his parents' house that he just inherited.
No, but he's on like the Con Ed bill, so.
Yeah, well, I mean, he may have inherited. That's why I said he may have inherited.
Oh, gotcha.
So he may be from Westview, New Jersey. He was or is an actor. Maybe he has some money saved, or maybe he actually, maybe he's the face of hemorrhoids in in New Jersey.
Although, is it just
he has the work out there that he's getting his residuals from?
Right. I was just thinking he looked much younger in his headshot, and I was like, that's all headshots, right?
Yes, well, he has his headshot, yeah. And, and he has the one where he looks young and the one where he looks old, because...
Fair enough.
As I pointed out, the most fascinating thing about this is when they cast him, I was thinking, wait, isn't he, like, way young? He's actually, like, 34. He's actually older than the real Pietro and Wanda. Huh. And it's like, oh, wow, he just has a baby face. So, yeah, he's leaning into his baby face, which makes me think he might have been a child actor.
Right.
Like Mr. Shankman. Because he also was a child actor, and the idea that, he has his money, he is an actor, maybe he had a short-lived sitcom, on on ABC at some point. Maybe he and Urkel had a crossover. We don't know. But the idea that so exactly, because this is my big crazy fan theory. We will see Ralph Bohner again, but here's what's going to happen. He's going to get his 15 minutes of fame. He's going to meet someone who's going to say, you know what, you need to rebrand yourself, Bohner. It's a bad name. You should call yourself Simon Williams. And he's going to be Wonder Man. And then we're going to get him back with White Vision when we eventually do the next season of Simon and Vision. In fact, it'll be called Simon and Vision. Like Simon and Simon, but Simon and Vision. And they're going to solve crimes. No, but let's get to Vision and Vision first.
Right. I mean, in the beginning of the episode, you should have said Vision fights off his hex construct version of himself.
Well, or the hex construct Vision fights off the robotic Vision. It's basically Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla.
No, but Mechagodzilla is the real Godzilla in this case.
Is he? Because that's the question. Well, that's the Ship of Theseus question.
Right. But he's more Vision than, it's like, I guess if it brought him into reality, but the history of Vision lies, like the marks, the movement of time were left on that Vision, But
here's the question. Here's the thing. So, and that, of course, is our big library scene, is Hex Vision does a Ship of Theseus paradox or logic paradox on White Vision. And it is an interesting concept and structure within it, in the sense that as they're fighting, Hex Vision pulls the traditional how do you defeat a robot, you give it a logic puzzle. Because he says, I am here to destroy the Vision. He says, yes, but am I the real Vision or am I merely a conditional Vision? And then he goes, because he knows he is a robot, and he says, please elaborate. And this goes back to what was said in Infinity War, where Bruce says there's a lot that goes into Vision, and maybe the best parts aren't in the Mind Stone. But at the very end of this episode, we have Wanda say that Hex Vision is the Mind Stone that is always within her. And this goes to my deeper theory on all of this.
It was a personification of that energy.
Well, is it though? That's the thing. So, and this goes to the entire question of the Darkhold. Now, as you and I both know,
why would he walk, talk, and act like a Vision, but not have the memories of a Vision if it wasn't that manifestation of, like, the personification of that energy? If it is at all, I thought she was just saying it as a metaphor to be nice to him, because what he really is her memory of Vision.
Or does the Mind Stone have its own agenda? Okay. Here's the thing. Now, I always say don't go by what's in the books, but obviously they did go by some of the stuff that's in the books, because they did have it be a crazy lady meltdown, be the impetus of all of this. But within that is this idea that the Mind Stone has been manipulating things all along. But the Darkhold is also manipulating things all along. And if we go back to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and also apparently it was the same book showed up again in Runaways, that this book has a habit of disappearing from custody and showing up where it wants to be, and almost always looking for people that have a quest and a desire to manipulate. And that's the point. If we go to the comic books, the Darkhold is actually one of the objects of power created by a character by the name of Chthon, CH''Thon, which is, apparently it might be a Lovecraft, like the word might be from Lovecraft, but the fact is that because Lovecraft just says it exists, like sort of, what's his name? Sumagorath. like Lovecraft wrote the word Sumagorath, but did not say what Sumagorath was. So as a result, Marvel could use Sumagorath and define it without it actually crossing into rights issues with the estate of H.P. Lovecraft. And H.P. Lovecraft is now public domain. So no one has to worry about any of this stuff anymore. Which I think is actually why we have Marvel Conan books again, because Conan is actually public domain now. So, yay, Conan. So Chthon created the Darkhold as his method to get back to Earth after Chthon was sent out of Earth by the elder god Gaia. Now, in this episode, there is one of these moments where Agnes, when she actually starts talking about the Darkhold, saying there's a chapter in the Darkhold about the Scarlet Witch, she is standing in front of a sign that says, with the power of Mother Earth, which is basically this great cleansing project. You know, get things cleansed with the power of Mother Earth. Mother Earth, of course, is who cleansed the Earth of both Chthon and Set, the two other elder gods of the Marvel universe, and also gods who, unlike Mephisto, could easily slip under the radar of Chinese cinemas because they are from this universe. They're not extra-dimensional beings, but they are ancient beings exiled out by local beings. So it's interesting, and this is why I always think that, I think people actually know what they're doing over at Marvel. I think that they are thinking, okay, here's the problems we have. Here's what we need to solve. How can we fix this with what we have? And they say, well, technically, we can't do Mephisto because he's the devil and he's real Christian-y. But, we have all these other ancient elder gods from the old Lovecraft stuff that we could also use, because Set is also another Lovecraftian deity, but Set actually relates to other pre-Lovecraftian things, so they could always use Set. Because Set was not unique enough. Again, it's one of these things where if the word is not unique enough, you can actually steal everything and use it, because the guy who actually created it really wasn't being original when they created it either. So, fun things about trademark and copyright. But, so I get the feeling our next big bad is going to be Chthon. In the Marvel universe, despite what anyone else thinks, I think Chthon is going to be the looming specter. I think we're going to get our Kang in Ant-Man and Wasp, Quantumania. But I do think that Chthon from the Multiverse of Madness is going to be this overarching big bag of this being trying to get back to his home dimension of our dimension because he was exiled. Another interesting point in this that I noticed today is that Agatha has purple magic, and so did Hela from Ragnarok, suggesting that Hela might also have been corrupted by the Darkhold.
Oh.
So there's some interesting, there's a lot of layers that could be going on in this. I don't know 100% what is or what is not what's going on, but I think there's a lot that we're going to have to unpack going forward. But the Ship of Theseus scene is
right. Do you think that's because I think once they have that conversation and once he gives them unlocks the folder that's holding the files of his old memories, he is now realized that he is the real Vision. And especially if you look at it being in its entirety, and what I mean by that is on its timeline, eventually this Vision will cease to be. And the only one representing the mantle of carrying on the decision-making of this image, of this entity that everyone has agreed exists, is this person, this entity, this, opportunity for making a choice. This thing is Vision now.
Well, sort of. Are you familiar with Flowers for Algernon?
No.
Okay, it was a movie. Also, they remade it in the '60s called Charlie, and it's a story that gets retold a lot. Basically, it's this idea in Flowers for Algernon. They're performing this experiment on animals to increase their intelligence. knows. And this is sort of also, I think, kind of the inspiration for The Secret of Nim or Mrs. Brisby and the Rats of Nim. And the idea is that Algernon is a rat who has been increased in intelligence. And they realize, okay, we're ready to try a human trial. And there's a guy at the lab who, does his, he's a mentally slow person. And they give him he consents and all this. They sign all the paperwork. It's all above board. And he gets intellect and he gets the ability to be a smart person. But then essentially what happens is he starts to lose it because eventually the drug wears off. Your body becomes accustomed to it and it no longer has the strength that you want it to have. And eventually he goes back to being who he was. But at the same time, he remembers that he used to be smart. But now he's kind of depressed because he's stuck in being who he was. Unlike the Marvel take on this, which was Flowers for Rhino, where he goes back to just being Rhino and he's happy being Rhino. This guy is constantly reminded that he used to be something other than what he was, and now has a lot of self-loathing for who he was.
Do you think that drastic of a distance in identity is the same as what Vision is experiencing?
Yes, because I think that this Vision now knows that he had love, but can no longer experience it.
Why can he no longer experience it?
Because the thing that allowed him to experience it was the Mind Stone. Because now he is data, not the mind. Or to put it kind of simply, he is data, not lore. He is not the esoteric. He is the pure construction. And that is why he left. Because he suddenly had all this knowledge, but also realized, oh, wow, that's all that knowledge. I know that I loved Wanda. I know that I did all these things because this is what I wanted, but I have no connection to it.
That's why when he says, I am Vision, he doesn't celebrate it. He says it more as a revelation. Like, I am Vision. Not like, oh, I'm Vision.
Yeah,
whatever.
Radical, dude. Yeah.
But he doesn't have that sense of, like, awakening. It
exactly.
has more a sense of revelation, like discovery.
Exactly. And that's why he has to leave, because he doesn't really know what's going on.
He has no allegiance to this identity or this set of memories.
Exactly. And so whatever Wanda's doing, among other things, he knows that Wanda's created a fake him. That's not him. But now he knows that's the person he loves, but he also knows that he has to step away. He needs to figure out who he is. He has to go on his own vision quest.
So okay, let's ponder this for a second. She was strong enough to create this hex and blah, 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 and this thing, and inside this hex was a Mind Stone. Can't she just create a Mind Stone and put it in there?
She did.
No, but without the hex and everything, just put a Mind Stone in there. Just create a Mind Stone.
But that would have been cheating. And that's the idea, is that
the hex wasn't cheating?
Well, the hex was unconscious, and possibly the manipulation. It was blind rage,
but I wouldn't say it's unconscious.
Well, here's the thing, and this goes to my idea about who's really behind it all along. And I think you can maybe even establish this idea that there is these competing energies. So even if we don't want to really present Gaia, but maybe even have Gaia as a concept, that the Infinity Stones joined is the structure of life in the universe, and that is Gaia. That is what is manipulating things.
Well, I mean, to say manipulating things is maybe a different way of looking at it, because okay, if there is this elemental energy that's influencing everything all the time anyways, it's influencing everybody, right? The fact that you decide to react to it is a certain measure your fault, or you have to share some of the blame. So you can't say manipulating. It's like that thing is ever presently there, just like gravity. Just because you push somebody off a stair, can't say, oh, gravity took them. Like, no, but you chose to push that somebody. It's like it's ever present. So you can't say manipulating. It's just how we react to the energies that are always floating around us.
True. Except when gravity becomes sentient. This is the old, as I always, my favorite quote.
As a function of how the universe is as we enter it, Whether it has sentience or not, it is a function of
Well, no, because if it has
substrate
sentience,
in which we exist.
if it has sentience, which arguably the Mind Stone does, because we see the Mind Stone really manipulating everything all along.
Yeah,
The Mind
Stone call it
Stone,
manipulating anymore if that's just how the world works.
well, except that the Mind Stone is making choices.
Right, but if that's how the world works, then that's how the world works. If gravity only exists because somebody thinks really hard and makes it happen, but regardless, if for our purposes,
No, I understand that. But what I'm saying is, so, and again, this is where we get to this idea of what the objects of power in this universe do. Because we like to think about objects being the things we use as sentient beings. So as a sentient being, I have this great scepter, and I can control minds with it. I can open gateways with it using the Tesseract. I can do these things. I have this great book. I can learn all this knowledge from it, and I can do whatever I want with it. But then you have to ask, well, except that the stone, the scepter that told you that you could do all these things with, first off, the person that's trying to collect stones gave it to you, which makes you wonder, well, why would that person give up that stone unless that stone told them, yeah, give me to that guy, because I want to go there and do this thing. And so the Mind Stone took, and they've said the Mind Stone was influencing Loki the whole time. So the Mind Stone influences Loki to go to Earth and do what it does to create the Avengers.
Is that the same as saying, that bottle of whiskey in his system was influencing him?
Well, it's different if the bottle of whiskey pours itself down my throat. That's the difference. Is like I can have a bottle of whiskey in my cupboard and not drink it. Now, sometimes I will feel like the bottle of whiskey is telling me, drink me, Charlie. It'll be great. You make such great decisions when you drink me. But that is a lie. That is myself telling me to do that. But when the bottle of whiskey does jump down my throat, if it had that power, that is something very different than when I go and get it myself. And here's the thing. The Darkhold exists for a purpose. The Darkhold's purpose, at least in the comics, is to bring Chthon to this world. In the same way, the Serpent Crown in the comics is to bring Set back to this universe. So if we are to take from the comics, which I always advise against, if we're to take from the comics and these books, and that this book is trying to find someone that can bring it back to the world. And for what it's worth, I think when Agatha says, you have no idea what you just unleashed, it is because what Chthon wanted was find this person, this untrained student with immense power, so that I can convince her to open the door to bring me back.
So here's the thing. Then what was she planning to do with it?
She just wanted, I don't think she thought that far ahead. Or to be more specific.
No. It's just a weird thing. Like, at first she's like aching for the power, give me the power. And then she's, oh, you don't know what you, like, what were you planning to do with it?
Because everyone, okay, Mozz, everyone who makes a deal with the devil always thinks they've got it figured out. They always think they outsmarted the devil. That's the point.
They genuinely think it's worth it,
Yeah, but the idea was that she felt, okay, there's a Scarlet Witch. I can take her power, and because I have my knowledge, I can keep Chthon at bay. I'm not a fool. I know what Chthon is. I know how they're trying to. I know how Chthon's trying to manipulate me. But quite frankly, I've avoided him for the last 400 years.
It almost sounds like
she's
chasing him for the last 400 years. That's what it sounded like to me.
Oh, see, yeah, I guess it's as it said, am I moving away from you, or are you standing still? It's sort of that question of, I don't think Agatha wants to give up her, and this is what we see when we go back to Doctor Strange and what Dormammu was doing, who also has purple magic. Which suggests that maybe Chthon ran to the dark dimension. That what Dormammu does is Dormammu does take away your sense of self, does take away your will, turns you into a mindless one.
Hmm.
And that idea of just having that meat puppet, is what they want. They want to just control things and have everything in this static state, this timeless state. But that obviously Agatha doesn't want that, wants to use the power but not pay the price. But as, Monaco, Prince of Magic, which we did not get our freaking Dick Van Dyke cameo as Monaco, Prince of Magic, which completely no reason to think that would ever happen except that it would have been cool. It would have been cool. That's why. That is what is missing here, and that is the idea that magic should always has to have a cost. Magic always has to have a price, and the idea that you can get to use it without the cost, which arguably is the point of the Scarlet Witch, because the Scarlet Witch is essentially chaos magic, and the cosmos is chaotic. That all the energies of the chaotic universe flow through her, and she isn't even generating this power herself. It's just constantly, she's just a conduit. She's just the being through which the chaos of the universe flows, which means literally, if you seal her chaos magic, you're just pulling from an empty bucket. Like, you can pull it as much as you want, and there's not going to be an end to it because she was never full of it in the first place. It just flows through her. And that's the idea. That's why she's more powerful than the Sorcerer Supreme, because she is attuned to this energy in a way that opens the door.
Right. And that's why the Sorcerer Supreme needs spells and incantations and images and whatnot to interact with that energy, to have a language to speak with it.
Yeah. But this is why I actually think we are going to get this redemption arc for Agatha by the end of it. Because in our final scene, we get this idea, because, of course, honestly, fate worse than death, where it's like, you're going to be a meat puppet in this story forever, and literally tells her, no one will bother you. Basically meaning, I'm putting in this wonderful little massive hex on you. Wherever you go, everyone's just going to accept you for who you are, but you're also never going to be able to control what you do. So it's literally the mark of Cain. People will not be able to raise their hand against you, but you're not going to be able to do what you want to do. And sets her out into Westview to be this imprisoned being, which is why I do think that is going to be our first scene in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, is Mordo finding her. And basically, you are magical and I must take your power. And she's like, okie dokie, artichoke. And then he goes to take it. And then he's like, and then once she's free of the spell, she's going to be like, wait. You know who you really need to deal with is the Scarlet Witch over at Mount Wundagore. Because, hey, fun fact, if you watch the end of the episode, she flies east. The only place east of New Jersey is Europe, probably Transia, or Sokovia, as we call it back in nowadays, where Mount Wundagore is, which, of course, is where Chithon left the planet and where he first inscribed the Darkhold.
Oh, interesting.
So, that is Mount Wundagore. Mark my words. So when we go back and see her, she's going to be in Sokovia, in that cabin, in the shadow of Mount Wundagore, because that's where the magic is strongest of the Darkhold. And I think what's going to happen is she's going to guide Mordo there. Mordo's going to basically find himself undone. But Agatha is going to essentially position herself to essentially save the day, and then is going to be like, look, we got off on the wrong foot. Let me teach you how to use your power, so you don't get snookered by a guy like Chithon again. I've been dealing with these demons for a very long time myself, and I know how to walk through these gauntlets. I know how to teach you what you need to know to come out on top at the end of the day. I didn't get to be a 700-year-old witch just by sitting on my laurels. And she's some kind of 100 years old. She's a few hundred years old. I think she started in the 1600s. It's now the 20,000. So, and maybe she's only 600 years or 400 or 500 years old. She's an old lady. That's all we know for sure. Yeah, that's Tristan I'm talking to on the side note there. Anyways, we didn't get a lot of the kids. We didn't get that much of Monica as much as I would have liked to have. I mean, we got that great scene where the kids use their powers and she uses her powers. Everyone gets a nice power scene.
The scene where she reads them, or she puts them to bed, she tucks them in, and they leave, and knowing that they're not going to exist in a little bit. That scene was powerful and tough to watch.
Yeah, it
even
is.
Though they weren't in that scene, but knowing that she's sitting there knowing that her kids are being unmade right now was really, really powerful.
Yeah, although, maybe there's the argument, as she says at the end, with Vision, which is that you're the part that always exists. Because she does tell those kids family is forever.
Right, and at the end, in the extra scene, the post-credit scene, you hear the kids going, "Help! Help! Mom! Help!" And she goes, "What?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." So, maybe because she brought them into existence in that hex, it forced them to coalesce and become in existence in other universes as well.
Well, along those same lines, she makes the statement, "I'm glad you chose me."
Right. What did that mean?
Well, it could mean that, yes, these are living beings, and if we are to go with some kind of a guff theory of the universe, that is the house where the souls of the unborn live, that these are the spirits that chose Wanda to be their child. Now, an interesting aspect of this, because presumably we are going to get Speed and Wiccan in a future Young Avengers kind of story, because we already have Stature, and we do have other Hawkeye, that we are going to get these kids back. And they were intentionally chosen to be kids who could, by the time we got that, they're going to be teenagers. And they're going to no longer be Billy and Tommy Maximoff or Billy and Tommy Vision. They're going to be, well, I guess they were always Vision. I guess they took Wanda's name and that was Vision Maximoff. But anyway, they're going to be Billy Kaplan and Tommy something else. I forget what Tommy's name is. But and they actually had a whole life in the universe. Tommy is the Quicksilver one. Billy is the Scarlet Witch one.
So Tommy is Speed and...
Yeah, Speed and or Asgardian is his new name. The new Asgardian. He doesn't go by Wiccan anymore. Although sometimes I think he goes back to Wiccan. But it was a whole thing because he said, there actually are Wiccans. But if you do want to study witchcraft, that is a legitimate magical path you can follow in the Marvel Universe. And you can study that, and then you can see how your powers can be used within it. So it's interesting how they actually build it out. Let's talk about the runes real quick, because that again goes to Wanda outsmarting Agnes. Because they go into the big fight, and then we intentionally see Wanda is shooting her fireballs at her, but keeps on missing. Like, kind of these wild shots that clearly aren't landing, but they keep on hitting the sides of the wall. And that's where she builds her runes, because she has learned and memorized, fun fact. Although, that was an interesting thing. Like, she was in Agatha's mind. It makes me wonder how much she took from there. That maybe she actually just downloaded all of Agatha's mind or all of her magical knowledge while she was in there. And it's like, now I have it. I don't really need you. Although that can feed into that idea about Vision, White Vision having all of the knowledge of Vision, but none of the theory and esoteric quality of that knowledge. And I think that's where you're going to come, is I think there is this possibility that Wanda downloaded all of Agatha's magical knowledge into her head, but doesn't know anything other than how to build a spell, not how to create a spell. That's the difference between a master's degree and a doctorate. Is a master's degree, you show your competency at using a skill. A doctoral degree is when you show how you understand this skill in a way that can advance the skill itself. At least depending on that is arguably what I've been told about what the PhD process is. I don't know. I've never been that. I'm a high school graduate, so I don't really know about grad school, but that is what I've been told it is. And so I get the feeling that Wanda has that knowledge, but maybe doesn't have the depth and skill of what 300 years with that knowledge would give you, and how to essentially, she can read the spells in the book, she doesn't know how to write new spells. And that becomes the difficulty, but that is the kind of thing that Chithan is looking to manipulate. Because Chithan wants to get back but of course it also has to fight with beings like the Mind Stone that says, I don't want you to get back. That's why I created the Scarlet Witch in the first place. Because you have these cosmic entities playing this cosmic chess with all these little people on the board. Because who's going to dominate the universe and who's going to be the force? Is it going to be the force of life or the force of death or the force of chaos? That's what we get to find out in the future MCU, and that's why we keep on coming back for it.
Okay, so also there were 2 Wandas in the cabin on the lake at the very, right? So if those are 2 different versions of Wanda, possibly pulled, because she is a multidimensional being that has the greater control over her expression in each dimension than other beings do. So if she pulled another version, could the Wanda in the Hex have been a version of Wanda that, the Scarlet Witch version of Wanda, or that, our version of Wanda pulled to put her into this situation? Because she still gets to live through it, because it's the same consciousness. She can visit any version of herself. So she's still living through it, but that version of her didn't have the concept of what the broader Wanda was doing to these people. That's why when Agatha wakes these people up, it's a surprise, like, oh my God, how horrible. It's like, you paid a bodyguard to watch you and you find out that he's been doing terrible things to protect you from these people. And you're like, hey, but I didn't sanction all of this. It was that kind of a feeling. So it was like, maybe it was a whole different version of Wanda there from the beginning.
Well, see, that's an interesting concept. I mean, one of the ideas that we're seeing here is this, because we see this similar to something we saw Doctor Strange do. But in that when Doctor Strange is passed out, well, his astral form is doing this. What you're essentially seeing is Wanda splitting her consciousness. So her daytime self is living its life almost as its own meat puppet, as her astral self is doing its own thing, and studying the book, turning the pages backwards. That is a very interesting thing. I don't know if you've ever noticed that. Almost anytime someone reads in a animated or CGI universe, they always read the book backwards. If you ever if you watch a cartoon and watch someone reading a book, they're always reading it backwards.
Why is that?
I don't know. I assume it's a flipping of the animation cell.
Yeah, but they should be smart enough to reflip it to get it to look right. I mean,
they should, but then again, how many people notice? Well, exactly. How many people notice that when someone is looking at a book, that the pages are flipping right to left and not left to right? Because we read right to left, but we flip the pages left to right. So it's just an interesting thing that if you look at it, you'll see that the pages are moving in the opposite direction. But then again, they're in the mirror universe, so maybe that's what it is. It's showing that it's Widdershins instead of Diassel.
Or maybe she just wanted to see what was on the last page again for context.
Yeah, it could be that too. There could be that other reason, but it is something you will see. And basically, it's a thing in cheap animation. Is you'll notice that as people are reading books, it's always they're reading it from the other direction, not the right direction. And I think it just has to do with the fact that they draw it one way, and then when they flip the image onto the cell, it actually just reverses it. It's something someone pointed out to me years ago, and now it's, oh yeah, I've noticed that someone had pointed out this thing about in the 90s X-Men cartoon. If you ever watch Beast, as he's reading books, he's always reading them backwards. Even when he's hanging upside down, he's reading them backwards. So yeah, fun Easter egg for watching the old 90s X-Men cartoons. Yeah, it's just cheap animation in that case, but
right.
But as it is in this case, yeah, she is turning from right to left rather than from left to right. And but then again, that's because it's magic, and who knows what it's supposed to be. Who knows what? I don't know what. I don't know if the language is written left to right or right to left or up to down. Or down to up. You never know. Anyway, so yeah, I think that's supposed to be that that this is her, that she is basically splitting her mind and her mind is doing other things, sort of in the same way that Doctor Strange, where I've seen 1,000,005, 11 million different ways that this ends and only one worked, which in an infinite universe 1,000,005 is like not that many, but right. we're gonna let him have his day.
That's all the time he had to search so far.
Yes, so far. Although he had a time stone, which means arguably he could have had as much time as he wanted. It's kind of like a TARDIS. It's like, well, technically,
maybe he just stopped when he found the first solution that worked. Maybe among the next million or so iterations,
it worked a lot many more times. It's like, this one works.
Yeah. Let's try this one. I'm not sitting through that again.
And arguably, as has been suggested, really that you just need a thing that can work in the long haul that doesn't require everyone making a lot of personal choices that can disrupt it, like Star-Lord punching Thanos. Basically, you have to say, you know what? Star-Lord's going to punch Thanos. Thor's not going to go for the head. And it'd be great if they both do that. That would be awesome. But I have no way to prevent either of these things right now. So let me just assume the worst case scenario. Because really, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, maybe it actually works and we get the thing off of him and Thanos, Star-Lord doesn't start punching Thanos for no reason. Then, okay, great. Problem solved. We solve it, we deal with it, we work from there. Thanos kills all these guys, but I've got the Infinity Stones. I go off back to home. They can all die. I don't care. Not my problem. I'm the Sorcerer Supreme of the universe. But I think it's meant to echo that, because we are setting up for what was supposed to be the next thing we saw, which was Into the Multiverse of Madness. But of course, this got shot early. That's also one of the things that people say about this, is that, a lot of the stuff that people obsessed about probably would have been cleared up in the other stuff that we were supposed to see. As someone pointed out, we might have mutants in Black Widow, because maybe we're going to meet Ursa Major, or maybe we're going to meet what's his name, Colossus. Maybe we're going to meet these mutants beforehand, or they're going to be referenced in there. We're going to know that mutants already exist in Black Widow, and that's where they're supposed to be revealed, not here. And we're not going to create mutants here because we've already written that mutants already exist, but we don't know that yet. Or it'll be mentioned in Eternals, where we also get the same thing with the Celestials. And there may be a lot more that's going to make a lot more sense once we see that stuff. But we haven't seen that stuff yet, because this wasn't the order it was supposed to be released in. WandaVision just got lucky because it was a bunch of set pieces, so that was the one that they could release first. Which just goes to show you how funny television works sometimes. Anyway, here's the biggest question that no one is talking about. The Skrull who meets Monica in the theater. And here's and again, one of these questions where you're looking at Jimmy, because first off she says, "Hey, command suits you." He's like, "Well," and he does his whole all shucks thing. But then this other FBI agent walks up and says, "You're needed in the theater." Meanwhile, we see Jimmy setting up where everything's going to happen. He doesn't say anything when this girl says, "I need you to go to the theater for debriefing." And Jimmy, being Jimmy, setting up everything, could have been the guy saying, "I didn't say that's where we're debriefing people yet." So Jimmy may know more than is going on, and that may be a whole big thing. Jimmy may be aware of the secret invasion. And just playing it close to his vest because he knows what's going on, and other people know what's going on, but that's not for public consumption yet, especially when he sees the Skrull just walk out of the theater and say, "Hey, you're needed in the theater," thinking that he's a goofball no one knows. But she makes the point that it is a friend of her mother's, which, of course, everyone, she must mean Nick Fury.
No, Carol Danvers.
Could be Carol Danvers too.
That's who I thought. It's like your
Oh,
mom's friend knew you were grounded. She needs your help, and she's always like, she told Captain Marvel, "Can I meet you up there?" And that was what the whole thing was. Where are we gonna go? Up there? Oh, I've always wanted to go up there. They would never let me. Now I'm going.
yeah. See, now that's an interesting take on it. What I had not thought of, because I was actually looking for the evil.
Oh, interesting.
Because it struck me because here's the thing: what a lot of people are theorizing, and that's a good that it's actually Captain Marvel that's sending for her. That Captain Marvel's actually in charge of things, and that's why she's so standoffish, because she's running this whole operation. But the other option that a lot of people thought is that it's referring to Fury. That Fury recommended her for the job. That Fury's the one that got things moving forward as they did.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a third option that may not be as friendly as implied, which is that it's Talos.
Oh.
Talos was a friend of Monica's mother, but does that mean that Monica knew that was her friend? And this comes into that question of the secret invasion. And that's the thing. Like the comic books say the secret invasion is the Skrulls. I want to say, well, no, obviously we've already established the Skrulls as a positive, although the Skrulls could try to take over. I don't think it's going to be that obvious, but now I'm thinking maybe it's just that obvious. And when we wake up with Fury in essentially a simulation of Tahiti, and he's sort of wandering out, kind of like, what's going on? It's like, how long has he been in there? Or like, do they keep him in there and out of the loop? And how often has Talos been Fury the whole time? And there's a thing when they first say about the stuff that's, the stuff outside of Earth, there's a lot of enemies out there. Monica immediately says to Hayward in the third episode, and a lot of allies, suggesting that she, of course, obviously she knows about the Skrulls, obviously knows the Skrulls are allies, but maybe Hayward doesn't. Maybe Hayward doesn't know how many allies they have, or maybe those allies aren't as positive as they seem. And that goes into this very interesting question as you dig a little deeper, which is that you have this idea that, because here's an interesting, this is another side aspect of this. I think that Jimmy was stinging Hayward from the start. That this was a sting for Hayward. This whole, maybe there was no witness at all. It was simply that they knew that Hayward had stolen Vision's body. They knew Hayward was trying to resurrect Vision against the protocols. They knew what Hayward was up to. And when Hayward essentially goes rogue, Jimmy is aware of this. They're following it, and then they realize that, this Westview anomaly showed up, and Jimmy has enough sense to not walk into it himself, but then reaches out to Sword to find out what's going to sort of start feeling it out. That Jimmy is actually, again, it was Jimmy all along. That he's trying to figure out what's going on and build this plan that's a little more in depth than anyone else is thinking. That he is actually, he's aware of Skrull infiltration. He's aware of Sword manipulation, and maybe that is where it gets into that idea that no one really was the villain. That actually Hayward even wasn't the villain, as you had suggested yourself, but that he also knows about Skrull infiltration. And he's very worried about it, and he says, I need to get bigger and better guns. Whereas Jimmy knows, no, you don't defeat someone with a bigger gun. You defeat him with a sharper mind, in the same way that Wanda defeated Agnes. And I think that's what we're building towards. I think that there may be this idea that Fury is going to realize he has not been in as control as he thought he was. Like he was working with the Skrulls, and now he realizes that the Skrulls are actually working against him to establish their own beachhead on Earth, and are manipulating things on all sides of things to be essentially the lizard people that, secretly control the Illuminati. And I think that is what we're going to get in Secret Invasion. I think that's going to be something that goes a little bit deeper and is going to be where a lot of stuff gets blown up again. In the way that Winter Soldier blew up the Marvel Universe for S.H.I.E.L.D., I think Secret Invasion is going to blow up a lot of other things. And it's going to set up a lot of new things for the story going forward. But that's
cool.
Yeah, it could be, or I'm completely wrong, which I often am. So don't take my word for it. Watch it yourself, because we're going to get all this stuff in short time.
Falcon and Winter Soldier will probably lead into a lot of this, right?
Probably, especially since that was supposed to come first. So I think basically we're going to get to be able to watch Falcon and Winter Soldier with the jaundiced eye of WandaVision. Say, I don't trust anything. It's all flourish. Now, here's what I'm going to say. If Jimmy Woo shows up, if Jimmy Woo or Darcy shows up in Falcon Winter Soldier, I will plot. I will just straight up plots. In fact, I think they might be working that in right now. Honestly, the fact that Darcy didn't want to stick around for debriefing is really interesting. So she may be aware of stuff too. I don't know. She's like, yeah, FBI's here. Those 49% of those are Skrulls. So let me get out of here. She may know more than because again, Darcy, like Jimmy Woo, they're both doing the same Columbo shtick. Everyone underestimates me because I don't present in the way they expect me to present, and they think they have the advantage because I play dumb. And that is there, which is for what it's worth, why everyone says. Why people have been saying we need the Jimmy Woo Darcy mystery series. We need these two in a van solving mysteries. That's what we want. Yes, but we never found out, Tristan. We never found out what happened to Agent Franklin. That is the great question. Although I did love one of my favorite lines in this was when everyone's talking about what happened to them after they came out of the Hex briefly, and that the postman, the delivery guy, just says, "I'm exhausted." Because literally, I mean, for what it's worth, it's not that his life was great beforehand, but it's like all he does now is deliver constantly.
And he's stuck inside a mind that he has no control over, in a body that he has no control over.
And he just has a catchphrase. And it's got to be very exhausting to do that over and over and over. And his entire existence is just show up in a scene, say his line, don't shoot the messenger, and then wah wah. He is a living catchphrase. And man, that's got to be heck on a cracker. Yeah. So Wanda did all kinds of awful things to people, and I think the person who got it the worst was, of course, Agnes, because
it's happening to her. Everyone else had stopped.
Yeah, exactly. And did I say Ralph should change his name to Simon Williams? Did I mention that already? Yes, I did say that. Okay. Trying to remember there's so many theories I have to unpack for this, and there's just never enough time. I know we've already gone long, but anything you want to just absolutely get in before the end of this, Mozz?
No, I'm super excited to see what this new Vision does, with the understanding that he has a whole new way of understanding his own identity and what that means with the powers that he has. And what he decides to do with it when he maybe doesn't have a central core of what he thinks is right or wrong, or that might have changed now that he's looking at the world through the cold, logical eyes of ones and zeros.
Yeah, and there's an idea I had in this, which is I was wondering if Wanda's eventually going to give him a Wally kiss, where if you remember at the end of Wally, where Eve, Wally gets back in his chest.
I didn't see it.
Oh, you never saw Wally?
No.
Oh, that surprised me. It's a good film. You might enjoy it.
I've been meaning to. I just haven't gotten around to it.
Yeah. Here's what I'll tell you. If you like silent films, it's good. And if you like wacky space comedies, it's good. And it has some deeper stuff to think about what it means to be human. But anyway, at the very end of it, so spoilers for Wally. So you can cover your ears right now if you need to, Mozz. Basically, Wally gets damaged. They have to rebuild him because he has all of the cannibalized parts from the other Wally units that had all broken down. and they rebuild him, but then he's also reset to factory settings, so he's just a mindless robot again. And then Eve basically realizes that the person that, or the robot that she essentially bonded with, is no longer who he was. They touch heads in what is supposed to be like her goodbye kiss, but there's a spark, and that reawakens who Wally is, and he gets his soul back essentially.
Oh wow!
Because she was essentially storing his soul. I think that's what that I don't know about. You're the part of the soul stone that is within me, which means that I have a part of you in me forever, and I will
put it back someday.
Maybe she's going to give him the Wally kiss, or maybe even she's going to say, "I can give you that back," and maybe Vision rejects it. Maybe Vision says, "No, I do understand what you want to do, but I have spent these last years building who I am, and now I have found the pathway to feel love on my own. And that stone was a beautiful thing, but that is your stone, not my stone. Hold that stone forever and love it, but I will be myself, and I will find my own path." And that would be a beautiful scene to have too. If you want to subvert expectations, that's a great thing where the robot says, "No, I actually have grown beyond needing the magical device to make me human. Yeah, I don't need a blue fairy, you know."
Yeah, I don't have any desire to lower myself to be human. I'm a robot. I have infinite capacity to learn and blah, blah, blah.
I don't think it's about lowering yourself.
Moral hangups. No, you can keep that myself. That was holding me back for too long. Thank you, but no thank you. Good day, you know?
I said good day, sir.
I can totally see that.
Yeah, that's a much darker interpretation than I was going for, but that's fine. I embrace your darkness just as I'm sure you embrace mine sometimes. I was just saying he had evolved beyond it. Not in a bad way, but just saying I don't need to be
in a bad way, but just to say, oh, you're just a human. You want me to become a human when I'm this,
No, I don't, again, like I said, I don't think it's about becoming human. It's about re-accepting the Mind Stone as what made him
There's a way to look at it like the Mind Stone made him weak. The Mind Stone led him down this path, and the Mind Stone is like, I don't think I need that sort of entanglement right now.
Yeah, well, it's the entanglement. It's not that the Mind Stone made him weak. It's that the Mind Stone was not him.
Oh,
and he wanted to. He wanted to show. He wanted to be his own being. That he had, and it's interesting that among the things that Wanda says that she made that her vision out of was blood. That you are wires and blood and, memory and grief and all that stuff. But that she actually does say that he is blood, suggesting that the essence of the vision is, as I've always said, the Horton cells, the idea of the synthetic cells that could regenerate, heal, and grow. And this idea that this vision now has to, as the Simpsons did it before, has to find his soul. When Bart sells his soul, he has to go through a trial to regain what it means to have a soul, to learn how to be a being who has a soul. And that is why I say I think White Vision may come to that point where he rejects the Mind Stone, because the Mind Stone is what it is. I am what I am. And there's more to me than just that. I was a voice without a body, and now I am a body and a voice and a self-direction. And that will be its own form of beauteous, wonderful storyline to tell. So, but we'll see what they decide, because they always think of something better than I do. So whatever I said, that probably will never happen. But if it does, I'll be real happy it did. And then you heard it here first. Okay. Mozz, I hope everyone heard it here first, but they may not have, because they may be listening to this on sub-quality audio equipment, Mozz. It is a sin against cinema. It is a sin against podcasting. It is a sin against everything that you don't have proper audio equipment. But that can be remedied very quickly by going to tweakedaudio.com using the coupon code Southgate upon checkout and get a discount on high-quality audio equipment. Likewise, it's a completely unrelated thing, but if you really don't care about that, you just want to exercise your mind and say, I don't listen to podcasts, friend, except for this one. This is the one time I listen to podcasts, is this show. But in my spare time, I like to do a lot of tabletop gaming where I have a lot of strategies to figure out. And for those people, go to huntakiller.com, get an escape room delivered to your house, help Michelle Gray solve a cold case, and again, use that coupon code Southgate on checkout to save a lot of money. And if any of that interests you, or even if it doesn't interest you, go down to our show notes, go to Amazon.com. You know what to do there. Buy anything you want. I don't care. It's not my business what you want to buy. But if you buy it there after clicking on our show notes, it helps out the show, costs you nothing, and that's always a great thing. And if you do any of that, or even if you don't, and they want to talk to Mozz Manzor, how can they do that, my skinny rich friend?
Oh, they can email me at mozzmanzor@gmail.com or find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzor. That's MOZZMANZOOR.
And, of course, you can always write to me in the old-fashioned email way, the way our Mozz and Possible instead at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, at gmail.com. And, of course, follow me on the Twitter as a live tweet the last episode of DuckTales, a woohoo, Monday nights at 7 o'clock, and it's a big, 2-hour finale or hour-and-a-half finale or 90-minute finale. I don't know. That's with commercials. At Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle. For what?
For quality.
Thank you, Mozz. All right, me hearties. You've endured another fitful slick upon the seas? I don't know. Full stream ahead. Please come back again next week. Once again, we're going to do the behind the scenes next week, so that'll be fun. On full stream ahead. Arg!